धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयोः श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। Today is the birth tithi of Swami Adbhutanandaji Maharaj. Was considered one of the miracles of Sri Ramakrishna. There are two concepts called Sthan Mahatmya and Tithi Mahatmya. See, why we feel special on special occasions, why should we remember special personalities on those occasions? These are briefly explained in these two concepts. Sthan Mahatmya is that in a particular place, you feel a spiritual vibration, a spiritual ambience, a spiritual atmosphere. See, otherwise, why should large number of people come to ashramas and temples? We can even sit in our homes, or even take a room in a 5-star hotel and do japa. Why we come to a place called a temple, an ashrama? Because there is one idea that is in the Bhakti Sutras of Narada. It says, Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthi. How does a place become a Tirthasthana, a great place of pilgrimage? That is when a large number of people, spiritual aspirants, when they go with that bent of mind and indulge in sadhana, call on God, pray to Him, meditate, think about it. That is how a spiritual ambience or a spiritual atmosphere is created. You see, spiritual life is purely a mental culture. You believe in certain things, you practice certain things, you go about it. Otherwise, it's nothing physical. You cannot say, you cannot feel it physically. What is this? Then any place is same as any other place. But mental vibrations. In fact, that's what is essentially spiritual life is all about. How we go from body to mind and then even further. So most of us are rooted in the idea of body. But when we think of mind, a higher culture, vibrations, atmosphere, tanmatras, all these things become operational in a place where a large number of people gather. Apart from that, certain places where great men have lived, they have done great tapasya. People certainly feel a tremendous sense of spiritual uplift when they go there. It's a very famous incident in Sri Ramakrishna's life. He had gone to the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Navadvip. They showed him many places. If you go there are any number of places which people claim as where he had lived, he had practiced, he was born and so on. But Sri Ramakrishna did not feel much in many of those places for that matter. But on his way back, when he was coming by boat, the particular place in the mid-Ganga, he felt a tremendous spiritual upsurge and he was in Samadhi. And later it was found out in one of the accounts of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life that it is the very spot where Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu had given up his body. So that way, great personalities identified by their spiritual power, extraordinary manifestations of spiritual happenings, spiritual tanmatras. Even if you take the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vrindavan was completely lost at one point of time. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited that place, and depending upon the upsurge of spiritual emotions and spiritual uplift that he felt, those places were identified and they were all reclaimed by Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and others. So, that is regarding Sthan place. That's why we come to temple where great men have been practiced, where year after year, hundreds of years, thousands of years, the more and more where a place becomes ancient. So in a particular place, when you come and you gather together, when today some 500 people have come, all of them when they come for this part or satsang, their mind is concentrated on the idea. We are going to talk about one of the great disciples of Sri Ramakrishna by name Maharaj, and then the whole atmosphere becomes kind of spiritually enlivened, spiritually saturated with that idea. Similarly, this Kalma, Tithi, that particular date, particular time, on this day, on this Tithi, so and so was born. See why there are many people who feel extremely uplifted on days of Shivratri, Kali Puja, Durga Puja. So one thing is the Tithi associated with that. Again and again the mind dwells on that, concentrates on that, and then uplifts not only them, all those who try to bathe in such an atmosphere, be part of it. In fact, normally we have to mark in the calendar, identify and prepare our minds. It works both ways. We prepare ourselves. Oh, so and so today's is like that. You keep on thinking about that and the mind dwells on that. There are great people who at that very time, automatically the mind, you seeing them, seeing their behavior, quite often people find out, oh, today is such and such day because today he revealed such and such upsurge of spiritual emotions, spiritual feelings. That is also quite often, perhaps in a place where we saw not marked, you don't know, a great spiritual personality, from his behavior, oh, then you check, what is that? Oh, today is that such and such a sacred day. Today is Kali Puja day. Today is Shivratri, something like that. So automatically. So the more and more one dwells deep into sadhana, more and more it is possible to get connected to such ideas and become spiritually uplifted. That's how one progresses in sadhana. So today, that way, happens to be the birth tithi of Dr. Maharaj, Swami Adbhutanandaji. Of course, not much of records are available as to where exactly he was born, when exactly he was born and all that. By tradition, this day has been identified, considering his background, what little he used to talk about his boyhood and his early childhood. He was away from all that. He would never encourage any such discussion. When people would ask, why do you waste your time talking about these things? You have come to call on God, or waste your time talking about these useless things. And then there will be a stoic silence and there won't be any further discussion on the matter. So very little is available about his childhood and this and that. But they know he was born somewhere near Chapra and he was called Rakturam. Rakturam, oh Rama, you save, you protect, you keep me, that way. Actually, he became orphan at a very young age. Somehow the relative he came to Calcutta. He somehow got a menial job in the house of Dr. Ramchandra Datta, was a very close devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. And he was absolutely unlettered. He had never seen books probably. He was a shepherd. He would go grazing sheep long distances and he would be lost in this admiration of nature. That's how he spent his boyhood. So when he came to Ramchandra Datta, he was absolutely free from the burden of education, but was extremely hardworking, very sincere and very truthful and honest. So he soon became the darling of the house, although he was a servant boy. His Ramchandra's wife used to love him as her own son, and he would do all the works in the house with tremendous enthusiasm and joy. So as he grew in that house, every now and then, Ramchandra used to frequent Ramkrishna, would now and then come and tell whatever he had heard from the master. He would share. So one day when he was extolling so much about calling on God and other things which he had heard from Ramkrishna, this boy who had it in him, he was lying dormant, waiting for an ignition, waiting for the right moment. Immediately it struck a chord in his heart, and he immediately felt a longing to go and meet Ramkrishna. So he requested, and one day when Ramchandra Datta was about to start, he accompanied him and went to Dakshineswar. The moment Ramkrishna saw him, he asked Ramchandra, "Where did you get this boy? He has some spiritual tendencies, I find." So Ramchandra explained to him, but then the moment he met Ramkrishna, Ramkrishna touched him, and it was not an ordinary touch, a touch of an extraordinary spiritual giant. Immediately his latent spiritual samskaras were brought to the fore, and he was shedding profusely tears. He was completely lost to the external world, so to say. He was so much overwhelmed by Sri Ramakrishna's touch. Perhaps it was like, Sri Ramakrishna often used to give a beautiful example, like, a deep, hidden source of water. No one knows about it. You keep digging. Suddenly, your instrument strikes it, and water gushes forth. Immediately, Lord Maharaj was, his samskaras, he was so full of spiritual tendencies. He was just waiting for that miraculous touch of Sri Ramakrishna, and immediately there was a great spiritual upsurge in him, and he was profusely shedding tears. So, after spending much time, he went back, but from that day onwards, he was only thinking about Sri Ramakrishna and was slowly losing interest in whatever he was doing at Ramchandra's house. And he went back on another occasion and spent again a lot of time. So slowly, whenever, like that, every now and then, whenever he would get an opportunity, he would go and spend some time with Sri Ramakrishna. So much so, at one point of time, he said, "I don't want to stay there. I want to be here. I want to serve you." And he said, "How is it possible? Ramchandra Datta is feeding you, is doing everything. Have you ever heard somebody is feeding and paying you and you work for somebody? How does it happen?" He said, No. Ramchandra Datta loves me so much. I'll be here and I will take your prasad." Then Sri Ramakrishna said, "Baba, you are so intelligent. You will take my prasad. You want to take a share of my food?" And finally, because he was so much absorbed in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, and somehow he went and told Ramchandra Datta, "You please send me there. I don't want anything, I don't want salary, nothing. I'll be there. What it is available will take." But Ramchandra's wife was so dear to him. She said, "Mother, you give me a piece of cloth." He did not give. And with that condition, he came over to Sri Ramakrishna, started serving him day and night. If you observe Sri Ramakrishna's life also, because he had touched so many people, even during his lifetime. Now as those days go by, we hear how more and more millions of people are being influenced by him. But if we closely observe the 16 direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, each one was so exceptional, each one was so different. And from each life, we get something very extraordinary, extremely relevant for our spiritual life. All this study, our coming, our mixing, our studying, our learning, listening, everything should be oriented towards our own deep spiritual sadhana pursuit. Otherwise, all these will not be of much use. So, if you read Adbhutanandaji's life also, you will find, Sri Ramakrishna arranged a unique bouquet of flowers. With each different flower, if you see, Narayan is completely different, Sharma is different, Shashimana is different, Adbhutanandaji is different, Premanandaji is different, Abhedanandaji is different, Akhandandaji is different, Turiyandaji, each one, we can spend hours discussing the variety of the flowers in that bouquet which Ramakrishna arranged. So, Adbhutanandaji, He was so different. That's why, when he met Sri Ramakrishna, even at the first sight, that kind of a spiritual upsurge. Only a person who had done extraordinary sadhanas, maybe in several births, then they come to such a source for the ultimate culmination or the fruition of their sadhana of several janmas or several births. That is why, by the life of Adbhutanandaji, Sri Ramakrishna has clearly demonstrated to the world. Absolutely, there is no need for any book learning, no need for any formal education. What you need is that deep longing for God, that utter sincerity of purpose, that supreme goal-mindedness combined with that great dependence on God, that supreme spirit of surrender. Because in fact, sometimes it's a great advantage. Sometimes the more you read, the more you get confused whether to do this or do that. Because he was unlettered, he never had any complication, he never had any doubt. He came to the right source, he surrendered to Sri Ramakrishna, built his life completely based on Thakur's teachings, Thakur's guidance, and he reached extraordinary heights. So that is why, when they were selecting the names for themselves, Swamiji Vivekananda said that he should be given the name Swami Adbhutananda because he was Sri Ramakrishna's miracle. A person with such humble beginning, he was a shepherd boy from a very poor family, absolutely unlettered, no education, nothing. He had never heard of any spiritual practice apparently in his life, but he rose to such extraordinary heights. That is Sri Ramakrishna's miracle. That's what Swami used to say. So, he started living with Sri Ramakrishna and he was so meticulous and he would do everything as guided by the Master. And Sri Ramakrishna once saw him during the Sandhya time, because he used to work hard, he used to eat heavily also, he was well built, he had tremendous hunger, so he could really eat well and work hard. Naturally you sleep more also if you eat more. So even during the Sandhya time, he was feeling a little drowsy. Sri Ramakrishna observed and scolded him. See, if you sleep at this time, when will you call on God? You have come here to sleep? See, the point is, that is the difference between a person who is very serious about spiritual life. We may also hear, maybe one day we may try to do something and then the second day we may fall asleep. But from that day, he completely reoriented his routine. It took almost 2 years for him to conquer sleep. Whenever he would feel, he would walk vigorously, do something, splash water, never give up. And after 2 years, he conquered sleep. Never he would sleep. Practically whole nights he would spend doing japa or calling on God. But Sri Ramakrishna was so affectionate for him. He poured his heart out to that Maharaj. He would guide him. Tell him, go and meditate, go do this, go do that. Every minute details he would guide him. And because he saw he was such a wonderful receptacle, such a fine recipient, capable of absorbing and doing. So it was very nice for the Master also. Of course, once, like that, he sent him to meditate in the Panchavati or somewhere. He went and he sat and he was so absorbed, he completely forgot himself. And he was so deeply absorbed, it was very hot. He was profusely sweating. Sri Ramakrishna, when he heard of this, he came with a fan and he was fanning him. He asked another disciple to bring a little water and not to open his eyes. He was amazed that he was fanning him. He was so much sorrow. See, I should serve you, you are doing this. But Sri Ramakrishna said, I am not serving you. I am serving the Lord who is within you, who is sweating in this hot sun. That should be you. See, by that, Sri Ramakrishna not only served Natu Maharaj, he really gave him also an idea what spirit of service is. See, when we do something, when we try to serve, we always look at the external things, of personalities, of people, their body, their thing. We are giving to. No. You must remember that when you serve, you are serving that spirit, that God Of course, he explained also differently to Narendra or some other time. But that idea, so every action of his was a great education. So Latu Maharaj was guided like that. Oh no, he was so much devoted to Sri Krishna. Morning, his day would not begin unless he had a darshan of Sri. Sometimes he would get up. If Sri Krishna is not nearby, he would close his eyes and call on him. Please come, I have to see you like that. That was his. He was so much devoted to Sri Krishna. Then slowly, Thakur also brought him closer to Holy Mother because he knew that Mother needed some help. So Mother used to keep on cooking. So she had to prepare so many chapatis, need so much of flour. Then one day, Latu Maharaj was sitting and he was meditating. Then Sri Krishna sent for him and said, "What are you doing? The object on which you are trying to meditate, that is a very moment she is needing flour. Why don't you go and help her?" Latu Maharaj understood. He went to Holy Mother. Thakur introduced him to Mother and said, "He's a very pure nature boy, he will help you." From then onwards, he also started serving the Holy Mother. But Sri Krishna at the same time, it also a unique way of educating each of his disciples. He knew where they needed correction, and a very special way he used to do that. Now one day, Rakal and Latu both were present. Sri Krishna asked Rakal, so you go and prepare beetle rolls for me. Doctor said, "I don't know how to prepare, I have never done it. Masha, I can't do it." And Latu was there. He was furious. The Lord himself is asking, "Don't you understand? Can you refuse like that?" And he was fretting and fuming in anger. And Rakal was laughing. "Arey, you go and do. Why do you tell me? If you want, you do." And he asked Sri Krishna, asked Ramlal, "You see, who is a greater devotee? Rakal or Latu?" Ramlal understood. He said, "No, Rakal." Why? He said, "You see, because Rakal knows he is so intimate, I am so dear to him, he could take the liberty of saying no to me. When do we say no? Only when the relationship is so intimate, so dear. So he never felt any difference that it was a great sin or an offense to refuse Ramkrishna, say no to him. So he was definitely very intimate and close. So his bhakti was of even a more deeper nature and a closer to Sri Krishna. Whereas Latu was always feeling that big difference. He is the Lord, I am much below. So he was thinking these to be obeyed and this and that. And more important is Sri Krishna pointed out. You see, Raka's nature is not perturbed by this. He is not affected. He is smiling. Whereas Latu is fuming in anger. And anger is Chandala that will destroy your spirituality. So Dr. Maharaj understood. He said, "Never again I will show anger before you." So he was. Another occasion also when devotee came and he did something, Latu Maharaj scolded him and sent him away. When Sri Krishna came to know about that, he said, "What you have done is not correct. You go and beg pardon. And after that you convey my namaskars to him." Latu went, he just pacified, but he did not convey Sri Krishna's namaskars. So when he came back, Thakur asked him, "Did you specifically say, no, go again?" Next day he made him go again. When he said, the master sent his salutations, the devotee was in tears. You see, that is how, through such associations, everybody's mind is uplifted. Latu also must have felt what it is to be truly devoted, what it is to be truly humble, how an extraordinary personality, even for an ordinary devotee, after all, Sri Krishna did not offend him, but still, how great men try to take everybody along. Try to be a source of solace to everyone. So that is how their family becomes so huge, the spiritual family. So it was going on, and then Sri Krishna's last days were approaching. They were serving him and all that. But he was so much focused, even on that famous day of that Kashipur, when so many people were given very special spiritual uplift by Sri Krishna. He came down and then he touched many of them and said, "May your consciousness be awakened." Dr. Maharaj and somebody they were above. They were seeing the commotion, but they never wanted to come back. He was busy cleaning Sri Krishna's room, making it ready, making the bed ready. Because he knew, He's our Lord, He's always with me. Why should I go and ask? Whatever is needed, He would give. He was so much, untuned with Sri Ramakrishna. In fact, once he came to the Dakshineswar and Sri Ramakrishna was away, he wouldn't believe, he wouldn't accept that Sri Ramakrishna was not there. Not only that, after spending a long hours there, Ramananda came and found that he was literally talking to somebody and he was feeling the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. That was Latu Maharaj. Then after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, the disciples, they all took sannyas also. He became Swami Adbhutanandaji, but he continued completely his wayward ways. He was never into any kind of discipline or routine and this, but he was always for calling on God at any point of time, at any opportunity. Thakur had taught him not to sleep. So in Baranagul, in those days, when it was so difficult, his life of deprivation, tapasya, austerities. So night, one day when everybody was asleep, Shantatmanandaji finds, there is some tick, 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 some noise system. He said, what is this? Is this a mouse or something? When he makes some sound, the noise stops. After some time again it starts. Then he suspected something must be there. So the next time, the moment he heard that tick, tick, immediately he lighted a matchstick and he saw Latu Maharaj was sitting in meditation, doing japa. His mala he was rolling. So he was, in the early hours, he would pretend as if he is snoring. But then as soon as everybody goes to bed, he will get up and the whole night he will spend in japa. That was, he was so absorbed. He will sit on the bank of Ganges. In Ganga, there is always the ebb tide and flow tide. He will sit on a raised platform also. Some days, water would, in fact, during Sri Ramakrishna's life itself, one day, he was about to be submerged. Sri Ramakrishna himself came running to rescue and bring him out. So later on, he was like that, he would tie a gram in a piece of cloth, some towel, and with a brick for weight, he will keep it so that it will get soaked in the water, and then he would take it. He had kept it like that. In the meanwhile, it was flow tide, huge waves. And suddenly when his meditation broke, he saw there was no trace of this towel or grams. God knows where it is. He did not worry. He immediately sat in meditation. And when the ebb tide came, he saw again the towel was where he had placed. Then he took it and started eating. He had very absolutely unworldly ways, and he was absolutely nothing to do with the normal conventional ways of life. He would stay mostly in the Ganga Ghat, here, there. For many years he stayed in the press of this Upen Mukhabhadhyay. Many of them used to have great devotion for him. They all knew, those who had mixed with him closely, the whole set of people, they all knew that he was an extraordinary sadhu. Because a little conversation, a little of his presence would make them completely realize what mental he was. That's why Girish Ghosh used to say, if you really want to go and see the Gitokta Sthita Prajna Sadhu, go. He is the person. Because he was really, in him, Sthita Prajna Sakavasha Samaj, then Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatha Atmanyeva Atmana Chucha Sthita Prajna Sthitochate. A person who is completely satisfied in the Atma, who is completely free from desires, there is absolutely no desires. You go and see, he is the Sthita Prajna, like that. But sometimes he would behave in a very unconventional way, but people couldn't understand. Because he was free from all those bondages. So when Swamiji came from the West, he met devotees in many years in a house in Calcutta. Latu did not go to see him. And then when Narendranath Swami Vivekananda sought him, he said, why did you come? No, you have come with your Western disciples and others. I was wondering whether you recognize me. I thought you must be a very big person. I am your same Lorraine and you are my Leto, don't worry. And then they sat together and ate and all that. He had tremendous love for and respect for Swamiji. Swamiji for him was everything. But when Swamiji attained Mahasamadhi, he was in Calcutta, but he didn't come to Bellumat to see. So naturally people were talking why he didn't come, this and that. So somebody went and told him also, Maharaj, people are talking that you didn't come to see Swamiji. He said, Are how they will understand? How they will understand? They used to love me so much. Now I feel so lost. I cannot express. I think he was too shocked to go and see the mortal remains of Swami Vivekananda. That is why he did not go. So they all understood his special life. So when Swamiji was in Bellumat was started, he had made a rule that morning bell will be given, all have to come and sit in the shrine. So immediately Latimal went with his lota and kampal and he was going out. So Swamiji said, why? No, Baba, I cannot, my mind is not like that. Just when the bell is rung, you immediately set it to meditation. Let me go away. He said, no, it is not for you. It is not for advanced sadhakas like you. The beginners, unless some routine, etc. is made, how will they understand? So for that sake, all this is done. So you stay. Similarly also, Swamiji had made a rule. If anyone misses the morning meditation, he has to go out for bhiksha. And then as usual, tomorrow the whole night, if he meditates, morning he might have gone to take a little rest. That day also, he was about to go out. He said, no, it is not for you. That was Swamiji's love for Maharaj. All of them treated him like that. So in such an extraordinary fashion. And the Holy Mother also, he had such great love for Mother, such great devotion. But one day, Holy Mother was probably she was living in Balrambo's house. In one of the downstairs rooms somewhere, Dr. Maharaj was there. So all had gone. Mother was leaving for Jairampati. Everybody was going up to offer their pranams. Dr. Maharaj was not going. He was sitting in his house saying, Sannyasika ko mata ko pita. Who is father and mother was sannyasi. He was. Then Mother herself came down. Latu, you don't have to accept me. You don't have to accept me. Then immediately he fell at her feet and he was in tears. Mother was also shedding tears. He said, then he wiped Mother's tears. He said, no, you are going to your parents' home. You should not weep at that time. And Sharad will bring you back. He was so unconventional. He was so full of extraordinary feelings. But then he had a unique way of expressing them or participating in all that. So, for many years he lived like that. Then, when Sashi Maharaj came to Calcutta, he was so ill after the hard work that he did in Madras. Dr. Maharaj spent a lot of time with him. And also, towards the end, when Hari Maharaj was like that. But then slowly in his mind, he developed an idea that he should go to Kashi, Benares. Actually, everybody was so upset. Girish said, who is going to allow you to go? But after the passing of Girish Ghosh, he went to Benares. So, and then again, more, if not much more than what he was doing, he was into perhaps the final phase of his great sadhana. He stayed and day and night he would be absorbed in that kind of extraordinary spiritual practice, meditation, dhyana. He would be immersed. He had ascended such grades of spiritual dimension. And then slowly, he developed, because he used to care very little of the body, he developed probably diabetes or something. He developed gangrene, it started spreading. But then he wouldn't give up. Even towards the end, towards the last days, he virtually forced them to make him sit up and do. When they say you are so sick, nothing doing, I must sit up and call on God. And in that condition, finally he gave up his body. It was a huge crowd, big procession. They all knew that he was extraordinary. So, you see, Dr. Maharaj was, in the conventional sense of the term, he was not educated. But those who are truly illumined, their life, their expression, their understanding is completely based on actual experience. There's a very famous incident. In Kashi, along with Shantatmanandaji, Sudhir Maharaj, he had gone to hear an exposition on Kathopanishad. There is a very famous sloka, Angushtamata Purushottaratma Sada Hridaye Sannivishtaha. The location of the Atman in the Hridaya, you can locate him. And it's only Angushtamatra and all that. And when the Pandit was explaining, immediately he jumped. Sudhir, Pandit Thik Bolech, Pandit Thik Bolech. Pandit spoke correctly. Pandit spoke correctly. You know, his face was beaming with that kind of joy and light. So then they were coming back. On the way, you know, his mind was so satcharged with that idea. Sudhir was going ahead. He was behind it. He will go and catch him. Sudhir, Pandit spoke correctly. Pandit spoke correctly. They went back. They slept. Night 12 o'clock. Somebody is knocking on Sudhir's door 12 or 1 o'clock. He was surprised. Who is knocking? He opened. Latu Maharaj. Sudhir, Pandit Thik Bolech. Pandit spoke correctly. You know, it so tallied with his actual experience. Immediately you could see. Perhaps, you know, we can at best admire its good language. Oh, it is like that. You know, that is why, you know, reading, book learning, etc., they are far below, far million miles below, million steps below the level of experience. So Sri Ramakrishna had made him so full, there was no need for him to gain anything from intellectual exercise or learning something that way. So immediately he said that he could recollect that this is how it was, what it was. Not only that, you know, he had a unique way of explaining. People used to be amazed by his knowledge. The Raja of Khetri once talked with him for a long time. He was so surprised by his depth of knowledge. He never knew that he had no formal education. Now, two Westerners once came to him. They were talking about this Seva, Karma Yoga. He said, no, we don't believe God, etc. Only it's all an idea. Why should we have that? We can serve. Serving is important. We can serve others. That's how we can live our life. So Latu Maharaj slowly started talking to them. All right, you're serving. But you know, unless you have a greater ideal behind it, a greater understanding behind it, you can't serve like that. It's of no use, that kind of service. They were arguing. Said, no, we don't know about God. What is this? Why should we? Why not we just serve? Doing good to others is good. Then slowly Latu Maharaj caught them. You may do. Why should you serve? What is the benefit to you? Why should I serve others? Slowly they found that they were puzzled. So if you understand, you know, ethics, morality, doing good to others, all that can be explained only truly from a higher standpoint. Otherwise, no, invariably all the other defects like name and fame, ahankara, etc., naturally they overpower. More than that also, what is the sanction? What is the sanctity? Why at all I should serve others? But I must got them. Then he explained, see, when you have a higher goal, a higher idea, when you posit a God there, then that brings meaning to your service. You can serve assuming yourself as a servant of God, assuming in the other person there is a manifestation of God, then your service, the service to others, everything becomes absolutely meaningful. That is what would sustain it, and that is what really purify you or take you to a higher level of spiritual evolution. Otherwise, you know, you see there are so many clubs, so many associations, they serve. Do they get any benefit? They are only thinking how much my name is announced, how much my photographs come, how many times people recognize me, we give this, we ask so much to be recognized. But you know, this idea, a higher idea behind the service is positive God. If you take it as a spiritual discipline, I am doing this not because I am trying to do something good. After all, whom am I? The world is so large, it needs so much. I cannot do even a million fraction of what is required. Then what exactly is the purpose of my seva? If I do it or if I don't do it, it hardly matters to the world. Because there is nothing we can do to change the world. But if you think that I am doing it as a spiritual discipline, for my own evolution, to become pure, to become better, and in that effort, you just don't think the other person is an ordinary person, you are trying to create, serve another creation of God or another manifestation of God in the form of the receiver, then your service becomes a great spiritual discipline. That is what would uplift you. Like that, you know, whenever people used to come with that kind of a specific question, he would answer brilliantly. He would answer brilliantly. And also he was such a clear black eye for all the important things. Several times, you know, even, and he was extremely forgiving, extremely affectionate. somebody did some blunder and he was not coming at all. He sent for him. He explained to him in various ways. So why do you worry? God is very merciful. He is kind. You can do it. But that person was so remorseful that he was not coming out of his shell. Then finally, that Maharaj told him, "Arey, what is the point? Can you hide anything from God? He's already seen whatever he has done. What is the point in trying to be like that? At least you give it up, repent, and then you get rid of that shame and start again. Anyway, you are not going to hide yourself from God because He knows everything." And that worked. Like that, although he did not have that kind of a formal education, still he was sparkling with that kind of a spiritual wisdom that was born out of extraordinary sadhana, of extraordinary spiritual realization. So you see, when we think, when we ruminate about such great lives, as I said, we have so much to learn from each and every one of them. Each and every one of the small incidents of his life. When people used to come, a group of devotees had come. He asked one of them, that day there was huge feeding in the mud of Sri Ramakrishna's Utsava or something. I said, "How much did you give?" And that person said, "I have donated so much." What others gave? None of them gave anything. He said, "How is it? So many people are fed today. Where from the money would come?" So everything, he had such a keen, minute eye for everything. Although he was not a person of the world, he was unconventional, he would never observe all those things. When he would have food, when he would sleep, where he would have bath, where he would stay, nothing. But those who came within that close orbit, that's why there is a way of approaching spiritual people. That is one more thing we should learn. When you go to a spiritual person, if you have that mind, if people also come to do satsanga, people come to do sadhu sangha. If you come to estimate the other person or find out what are the defects, we won't gain. Other person is not affected. So when we approach spiritual people also, that kind of an inquiring mind, how the little time that is spent here, every day we come to ashrama, for every occasion we come to ashrama, we don't get so much time. So whenever we come, we should leverage, get the maximum out of each vessel. Every moment here is to be spent in such a way so that I go back spiritually enriched. So when you read such lives also, find out what is it that brought Maharaj so close to Sri Ramakrishna. How I can become so close to Ramakrishna. I might have read some books, I might be literate in one sense, but I am million times more illiterate compared to Sri Adbhutanandaji. If you look at his spiritual realization, his steadfastness, his goal-mindedness, his complete surrender to Sri Ramakrishna. There are so many aspects in Dr. Maharaj's life. We can, if you can absorb, our life also will become a wonderful surrender to Sri Ramakrishna, and our spiritual journey, our spiritual life will become smoother, and we will be much enriched in our spiritual wisdom and spiritual treasure. So on this holy occasion, let us offer our humble prayers to the great Yogivar, Sevapar, as they were singing about that Dr. Maharaj. It was real miracle of Sri Ramakrishna. So by worshipping him, in the Vaishnava tradition, how do you approach Sri Krishna? Many of those who are practicing those disciplines, they know that they can't directly approach Sri Ramakrishna. So Sri Krishna, they always approach Radharani. Radharani is easy to be pleased. So through Radharani, they go to Sri Krishna. So like that, Sri Ramakrishna may be too high sometimes. So we can also catch hold of Adbhutanandaji, Dr. Maharaj. Pray to him. Take us, just as you are so close to Sri Ramakrishna. Make us also close to Sri Ramakrishna. Somewhere, spiritual life is all about building relationships. Taking our flights of imagination to those areas whereby we can establish some kind of a connect, some kind of a feeling whereby we can also feel that some way we are closer, some way we are going ahead, some way we are enriched. I am sure that Maharaj will bless all of us and take us nearer to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanakampādita Vigraham Vai Ishāvataram Paramesharityam Tam Ramakrishnam Sirasāram.